The Talking Pumpkin, The Magic of the Mysterious Halloween Night. A suspenseful and magical Halloween story. Scene 1. The cold night and the strange smile. The wind was cold that night, whispering through the quiet town. Dry autumn leaves rustled across the empty street, as if time itself was tired. On a little porch, several jack-o'-lanterns glowed faintly, each carved with a different face. But one pumpkin was different. Its grin looked too real. Its eyes flickered with a soft orange flame that almost seemed alive. Inside the house, a young boy named Max stood by the window, holding his Halloween costume. Curiosity sparkled in his eyes. He whispered, "Can pumpkins really talk?" Then laughed to himself. "That's just a silly story." But as he looked again, the pumpkin on the porch winked. Scene 2. The whisper that crawled into his heart. It was almost midnight. The town slept under the dim glow of the moon. An owl hooted in the distance. Max couldn't sleep. Something about that pumpkin felt alive. He quietly slipped out of bed, opened the front door, and stepped onto the cold porch. The air was still. Then, out of nowhere, a soft voice whispered, "Psst, kid." Max jumped back. Who's there?" The voice came again, playful and calm. "It's me, your pumpkin." Max froze. That's impossible." The pumpkin chuckled. On Halloween night, anything is possible. Scene 3. The first riddle. The pumpkin's grin widened. "I have a secret for you, Max, but only if you're brave enough to find it." It paused, then whispered the riddle. "Where the scarecrow stands so tall, you'll hear the whispers of them all. Beneath the autumn leaves you'll find the secret left for hearts that shine." Max's heartbeat quickened. A shiver ran down his spine. But deep inside, something urged him to go. Go, Max. Something special awaits. Scene 4. The journey to the fields. The moon hung low behind drifting clouds. Max, clutching a small flashlight, stepped into the quiet cornfield. The wind howled, bending the dry stalks that brushed against his arms. In the distance, the silhouette of a scarecrow swayed slowly, its hat hanging from a torn string. As Max approached, his flashlight flickered, and under a pile of fallen leaves, something gleamed. He knelt down, brushed the leaves away, and found a tiny golden lantern, already glowing from within. Scene 5. The second clue. The lantern flickered in his hands and spoke. "The path ahead is dark and deep, where shadows hide and secrets sleep. Follow where the owls take flight, and you will find the final light." Just then, an owl screeched and soared into the woods. Its eyes glowed like twin moons in the dark. Max whispered, "If this is the way, I'll follow it, no matter how dark it gets." Scene 6. The Forest of Shadows. The deeper he went, the quieter the world became. Every step crunched over brittle leaves. His lantern cast trembling circles of light on the forest floor. The trees seemed to move. Whispers echoed between them. Soft, distant, like laughter carried by the wind. Max felt someone, or something, watching him, but he kept walking. Then the air grew warm, and before him appeared a massive jack-o'-lantern, glowing like fire in the night. Scene 7. The Valley of Magical Pumpkins. The clearing shimmered like a dream. Dozens of tiny lanterns floated through the air, circling the giant pumpkin. The ground was blanketed in golden light. The pumpkin spoke in a voice that was deep and kind. "You were not afraid, Max. You followed the truth. That is why you have found the heart of Halloween." The giant pumpkin's mouth opened, revealing glowing, magical candies inside. "These are the sweets of Halloween magic," it said. "Share them, but never reveal the—" Rahi Kahani, The Talking Pumpkin, Part 2. The Talking Pumpkin, Part 2. The Return of the Whisper. Scene 9. A year has passed. 1 year later, Max was now a little older, but no less curious. The air had the same familiar chill, and the dry leaves danced on the street just as before. He had kept his promise. He never spoke of the shimmering candies or the Valley of Magical Pumpkins. The candies, though, were long gone. Their sweetness lingered only as a warm memory. On the evening of Halloween, Max rushed to the porch, and there it was. The familiar line of jack-o'-lanterns, and one among them with that too real grin and a flickering knowing orange light. Max knelt down. "Hello," he whispered. Scene 10. The second message. The pumpkin didn't wink this time. Its flame suddenly grew brighter, and the air around it crackled faintly. Then, the same soft, calm voice spoke from the shadows. "Hello, Max. I see you remember." Max's heart pounded with excitement, not fear. "I could never forget. Will you give me a riddle this year?" The pumpkin chuckled. A dry, rustling sound like cornstalks. "The magic finds those who are ready, little seeker. Last year was about courage. This year is about trust." It paused, the light flickering rapidly. "The path is clear, but the price is high. Near where the 3 black cats lie, seek the one who walks alone, and bring back the stone that makes a throne." Scene 11. The 3 black cats. Max knew the place. Outside the town, at the edge of the abandoned railway tracks, were 3 old stone statues of sitting cats, a forgotten landmark locals called the 3 Sleepers. He gripped his new, sturdier flashlight and ran. When he reached the moss-covered statues, the night felt colder. Moonlight caught the gleam of 3 pairs of glass eyes staring straight ahead. He searched the ground, remembering the riddle. "Seek the one who walks alone." Max noticed one of the cat statues, the smallest one, was not quite aligned with the others. It was pushed slightly apart. As he moved closer, the small statue's glass eyes suddenly dimmed, and a deep, low purr vibrated from inside the stone. Scene 12. The hidden pocket. Max gently pushed the small cat. It tilted easily, revealing a dark, small gap in the earth. He shone his light into the hole. It was empty, except for an old, rolled-up piece of parchment tied with a velvet ribbon. The parchment was brittle and smelled of ancient spices. Max carefully unrolled it. Written in glowing green ink was a single word: mirror. He knew it wasn't the stone that makes a throne, but a clue to it. Scene 13. The broken reflection. Max raced home. He thought about where in his house something was a mirror, but also alone. He went straight to the old, unused attic. Dust motes danced in the single ray of moonlight piercing the grimy window. There, in the corner, covered by a sheet, was an ancient, ornate mirror that had been broken years ago and stored away. It was truly alone. Max pulled the sheet off. The glass was fractured, but the frame was heavy. Dark wood. As he ran his hand along the bottom edge, he felt a slight seam. He pressed hard, and a tiny hidden compartment sprang open. Inside lay a stone. It was smooth, dark gray, and perfectly square. It wasn't glowing, but Max could feel a silent, humming power emanating from it. It was the stone that makes a throne. Scene 14. The price of trust. Max returned to the porch, clutching the smooth stone. The talking pumpkin's light was dancing wildly now. "You trusted your heart and your memory, Max. The stone is a key to a greater magic. But trust has a price this year." Max held out the stone. "What do I have to do?" The pumpkin's voice became solemn. "The magic you found last year was a gift. The magic you earned tonight requires a sacrifice. To unlock the final door and claim your reward, you must place the stone on a throne. But that throne is the pumpkin's peak." The pumpkin slowly, magically began to rise on its stem, growing tall until it was nearly as high as Max. "Place the stone on top of my head, Max. To earn this new magic, you must give up the very thing that showed you the way." Scene 15. The new magic. Max looked at the stone, then at the talking pumpkin, his friend, his guide, the source of all his magic. The silence was heavy. He knew what it meant. If he placed the stone, the pumpkin's magic, its ability to talk and guide him, would be transferred, or perhaps silenced forever. Trust, he remembered. With a deep breath, he climbed onto the porch railing and gently placed the square stone on the very top of the massive, smiling pumpkin. A flash of intense golden light erupted. The pumpkin did not crack, but its flame vanished. The smile remained, but it was now just a carving. The magic was gone from it. As the light faded, Max found a small, intricately carved wooden box where the stone had been. Inside, not candy, but a beautiful silver compass pulsed with a soft, steady glow. A new, gentle voice, Max's own voice, now sounding clearer and wiser, whispered inside his mind. "The talking is over, Max. The magic is yours to direct. The compass will always guide the trusting heart." Epilogue. The silent smile. Max smiled sadly at the silent pumpkin, but he felt a new kind of power within him. He had traded a gift for a tool. From that day on, the pumpkin on his porch was just a pumpkin. It never spoke again, but every time Max held the silver compass, he felt a flicker of warmth, and he knew that the greatest magic wasn't in listening to a secret, but in trusting the quiet power within yourself. The Talking Pumpkin, Part 3, The Compass of Inner Trust. Scene 16. The third Halloween. Another year had spun by. Max was older now, But the silver compass had not left his side. It remained cool to the touch and pulsed with a faint, steady light, even in daylight. On his porch sat the very same pumpkin. It wore the stone that makes a throne like a crown. It was silent, but its presence was a constant reminder of the magic he had earned. This year, there was no riddle, no guiding voice. The air was quiet, waiting. Max picked up his compass. He understood the deal. The talking was over. Now the direction was up to him. Scene 17. The flickering needle. Max stepped out into the crisp Halloween night. He held the compass level. The silver needle, which normally spun freely, now had a mind of its own. It trembled slightly, pointing toward the deepest part of the town. Not the fields, not the woods, but toward the old town clock tower. The clock tower, Max muttered. It tells the time for everyone. What secret could it possibly hold? He followed the compass, feeling a sense of quiet trust in its guidance. Scene 18. The Tower of Forgotten Time. The clock tower stood tall, its ancient gears groaning with every hour. Most people avoided it at night. Its face was often dark, and its bell chimed in uneven time. As Max reached the towering stone base, the compass needle began to vibrate intensely, pointing specifically at the tower door. The door was locked with a heavy iron latch. Max tried to push it, but it wouldn't budge. Suddenly, the compass in his hand grew warm. Max instinctively placed it against the cold iron lock. The silver light from the compass surged into the metal. There was a soft click, and the heavy latch sprang open. The compass had not just pointed the way, it was the key itself. Scene 19. The Ascent. Max stepped inside. The air was thick with dust, and the smell of old oil. A winding wooden staircase spiraled up into the darkness. He began to climb. With every step, he heard the massive pendulum swinging. Tick-tock, tick-tock, a slow, rhythmic heartbeat of the town. When he reached the top chamber, the giant gears of the clock filled the room. Moonlight streamed through the open faces, illuminating the intricate mechanisms. The compass needle went wild, pointing at the largest gear, the main gear, responsible for turning the minute hand. Scene 20. The Stop and the Silence. Max approached the main gear. It was almost as tall as he was, its iron teeth slowly locking and unlocking with immense power. The compass, now shining brilliantly, seemed to demand one thing: touch the gear. This was the ultimate test of trust. One wrong move, and the gear could easily crush his hand. Max remembered the pumpkin's wisdom. This year is about trust. Trust not just in the magic, but in his own fate. He reached out and gently placed his hand on one of the moving teeth of the massive iron gear. The second his fingers touched the metal, the entire clock stopped. The loud tick-tock ceased. The room was plunged into an unnatural, heavy silence. Time had been paused. Scene 21. The Frozen Town. Max looked out the clock face opening. Below him, the entire town was frozen. A black cat mid-step, a leaf hanging motionless in the air, a distant car's lights stopped mid-flicker. In the complete silence, a glowing, crystalline hourglass appeared floating in front of him. It wasn't filled with sand, but with a swirling, soft violet light. A voice, not a whisper, but a clear, echoing thought in his mind, spoke. You have trusted the quiet path, Max. You have learned that true power is the ability to pause and control the rush of time. This is the gift of stillness. The hourglass floated toward him. Max took it carefully. It felt light, yet impossibly dense. Scene 22. The Release of Time. Max knew he couldn't keep the town frozen. He looked back at the massive, silent gear. He gently lifted his hand away from the iron tooth. The moment his fingers left the gear, there was a deafening gong. The gears instantly resumed their movement. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The town below came back to life. The cat continued its walk. The leaf fell. The distant car lights flickered on. Only Max knew that the world had paused for a moment. Epilogue. The Keeper of Stillness. Max returned home with the hourglass of violet light. The silent pumpkin smiled, its familiar, empty smile. Max placed the hourglass beside it. He understood now. The talking pumpkin was the guide. The glowing candies were the reward. The silver compass was the key. And the hourglass was the power he had earned. He never used the hourglass to stop time for selfish gain. He kept it safe, occasionally holding it to remember the feeling of stillness. Max grew up learning that the magic wasn't in doing the impossible, but in knowing that sometimes, all you need is a moment of quiet trust and absolute stillness to find the right direction. The Talking Pumpkin, Part 4. Antim Yatra, The Final Journey. The Talking Pumpkin, Part 4. The Final Portal. Scene 23. The Crossroads of Destiny. Max was now 14. This was his last Halloween before he truly entered the world of adulthood, and he felt a profound sense of closure was needed. He sat on his porch. The silent pumpkin, wearing the stone crown, and the glowing hourglass stood beside him. The silver compass pulsed faintly in his hand. This year, the compass didn't point to a tower or a field. Its needle swung quickly, settling on a direction that pointed straight up, at the moon. A clear thought echoed in his mind, stronger than any previous whisper. The 3 secrets are complete. Courage found the gift. Trust earned the key. Stillness unveils the portal. Scene 24. The Celestial Challenge. Max knew this was the final challenge. He needed to reach the place where the earth met the sky. He ran to the highest point he knew, the old abandoned observatory on the hill outside of town. He climbed the dark, ivy-covered structure. The air at the top was thin and electric. The compass needle was now pointing directly through the rusted dome of the telescope chamber. Scene 25. The moment of stillness. Max entered the chamber. The massive, antique telescope sat under the gaping hole in the dome, aimed uselessly at the sky. The compass demanded Max place the violet hourglass into the telescope's eyepiece. Max hesitated for a moment. He was sacrificing the one thing that gave him absolute power over time. He remembered the talking pumpkin's very first words. On Halloween night, anything is possible. He carefully slotted the hourglass into the eyepiece. The moment the glass touched the metal, the entire observatory vanished. Scene 26. The Void and the Bridge. Max was no longer on a hill. He stood on a tiny, ancient stone bridge that floated in a void. Below him was a deep, swirling darkness, and above him was an impossible sky, filled with green and gold nebulae. The hourglass, visible through the telescope's lenses, began to glow with blinding intensity. The light didn't just illuminate the path, it created it. Across the void, floating in the center of the largest nebula, was a vast, shimmering pumpkin-shaped island, the source of all the Halloween magic. Scene 27. The Final Guardian. As Max stepped onto the bridge, a figure materialized before him. It wasn't scary, but ancient. A tall, shimmering form, made of autumn leaves and faint starlight. The Guardian spoke in a voice like rustling fire. You possess the gifts of Halloween, the compass of trust and the hourglass of stillness. Yet, to cross the final bridge, you must give up what you value most. Max looked at the compass in his hand. It was the only thing connecting him to his very first adventure. It was his proof, his friend. The Guardian continued. The magic is not in the tools, Max. The magic is in the seeker. Give the compass to the void, and trust your own path. Max closed his eyes. He had earned the compass by sacrificing the pumpkin's voice. Now, to truly graduate from the magic, he had to trust himself without the key. He opened his hand and released the silver compass. It tumbled silently into the infinite darkness of the void. Scene 28. The Keeper of the Heart. As the compass vanished, the stone bridge instantly solidified and carried Max to the Pumpkin Island. The island was not a land of endless candy, but a quiet garden filled with glowing seeds and roots. In the center sat a throne made of deep purple light. A wise, ancient entity, not a pumpkin, but the spirit of Halloween, sat there. The spirit smiled, its eyes shimmering like the distant nebulae. Welcome home, Keeper of the Heart. You have shown courage, trust, and stillness. You have proven you value wisdom over power, and the journey over the key. The spirit handed Max a small, simple oak seed. You may not stop time, nor speak to the guides anymore, but this seed holds the secret of renewal. Plant it every year, and it will remind you that magic is found not in seeking the impossible, but in tending to the possible. Epilogue. The Dawn of the Possible. As dawn broke, Max found himself back on the hill, alone in the abandoned observatory. The telescope was empty. The hourglass and the pumpkin were gone from his home. Max never spoke of the void, the guardian, or the spirit. But every year, on October 31st, Max would go out to his yard and plant the oak seed. It would always sprout a single, perfect, golden leaf before the sun set. He learned that the real magic wasn't in the talking pumpkin, the candy, or the power to stop time. It was the ability to face the unknown with confidence, knowing that the best magic is the truth you grow within yourself. And though the pumpkin was gone, every autumn Max could still feel a quiet warmth in the wind, whispering not words, but a single profound sense of belonging.